So, reading against the grain means reading with skepticism. Sometimes it's healthy to be skeptical and cynical, but it takes far less energy if you're just more skeptical. Critical thinking takes effort. And so, what we want to do is show you how to think critically about something you read. You've already done the believing game, which was with the grain. Now, we're going to show you how to read against the grain. So I'm using now the Daily Me is neither new nor bad from Hauser. So if we take a look at that, I'm going to read through the first 7 paragraphs and show you how to actually read against the grain. He starts with certain journalists have recently expressed fear of a new trend they believe threatens their already struggling institutions. The growing news personalization websites that Nicholas Negroponte of MIT coined the Daily Me. But they shouldn't be scared. The trend isn't bad and it isn't new. In fact, far from being an enemy to news media, the Daily Me trend stands to help save journalism. Well, what's interesting is he starts with certain journalists. I wonder why he doesn't name them. Who is he responding to? It sounds at first like he's being polite by not accusing anyone in particular of being scared they might lose their jobs. But if that's true, then he's not responding to Christoph's article. Christoph does say newspapers are disappearing, but he doesn't blame the personalized news for it. So is Hauser misrepresenting his opposition by summarizing them inaccurately? Um, Especially since he calls them the already struggling institutions and uses the word threaten. So it seems to me that he's not quite seeing the argument as Christoph put it. I think Christoph would argue that he is worried about much more than whether newspapers are saved. So why does Hauser have these concerns? Or why does he leave them out, rather? It's maybe partly because he wants his readers to believe that they shouldn't be scared. Of course, he wants that. Hauser works for a website that's actually called the Daily Me. Paragraphs 3 and 4. Critics of the phenomenon believe giving us the power to become our own editors will encourage insulation and bias. But we have always been our own editors. Every time we consume media, we make choices consciously or not. When we skip articles, choose one newspaper over another, switch television channels, or tune into a radio station, we decide what we want to consume. The internet has simply provided tools to make the selection process broader, easier, and better structured. If and how you personalize your news experience is simply a question of new methods, not new habits. It is hard to tell how important Hauser assumes editors are. He sends mixed messages here. In paragraph 3, he says that we've always been our own editors. So it seems like they're not all that important um, because we're the ones that choose where we focus our attention. But on my first read, I remember in paragraph 7, he says that the editorial choices of professional news organizations also play a critical role. So between this point and this point, where did it go? Um, when becoming your own editors, those two actually contradict each other here. At least in my mind, they do. Um, Paragraph 5. When readers actively select their own topics, as they do on dailyme.com, for example, they are typically more engaged, not less, than those who rely solely on the editorial choices made for them in traditional outlets. Specifically, dailyme.com users who personalize their news view an average of 7 pages per visit, or about double the pages viewed by non-registered users. In this paragraph, he defends personalized news with a cause and effect argument, and it's always important to think twice about those. Hauser says the cause is personalized news. The effect is registered users with personalized news look at about double the number of articles compared to non-registered users of his company's news site. He is using that data to claim that readers are more engaged. I'm not sure I really see the connection here on how that works. Why is it that the non-registered users are compared? If they're non-registered users, they're not using it specifically for the purpose dailyme.com was being used. But those who are registered users are. So it doesn't really seem logical that this evidence can support that. Paragraph 6. There are other important advantages to the personalization of news consumption. Few would argue, for instance, that it's better for a reader to have superficial knowledge of a broad range of subjects rather than deep, up-to-date information from various sources on a subject of intense interest. Readers who suffer from diabetes, for example, might rely on a Daily Me site to collect relevant articles from multiple sources in one sitting. So in this paragraph, he gives a hypothetical example of why personalized news could be helpful. Hypothetical examples are made-up examples, so it's always important to decide if imaginary support like this is realistic and relevant. In this case, I'm not sure it's realistic that someone would personalize their news feed to alert them to updates on diabetes research. Maybe, but it is definitely not a relevant example in response to Christoph's concerns that people will only come across opinions they already agree with and become black and white thinkers. So it's not really what that site is used for specifically. So this is how you read against the grain. So what you want to do at this point is continue reading with the same kind of subjective eye or objective eye, going through the rest of the article and see what other things don't seem quite logical to you in his argument.